Getting coffee, coffee here. Yum, yum, yum. So good. Okay, started. Got my espresso coffee. Okay, so reading on the Four Agreements. And we are at the final pages of the Four Agreements. And so let's get going. All right, let's start reading. Okay, so you were born with the right to be happy. We read that yesterday. We don't need to know or prove anything, just to be, just to risk and enjoy life. That's all that matters. Say no when we want to say no. Say yes when we want to say yes. You can only be you when you do your best. When you don't do your best, you are denying yourself the right to be you. That's the seed that you should really nurture in your mind. You don't need knowledge or great philosophical concepts. You don't need the acceptance of others. You express your own divinity by being alive and loving yourself with and others. And it is an expression of God to say, "Hey, I love you." The first three agreements will only work if you do your best. Don't expect that you will always be able to be impeccable with your word. So it's not possible to be 100% on point all the time. We fall off. There's ebbs and flows. Things happen. So we just have to remember and bring ourselves to the awareness, right? And that's the big kicker. Good morning, Betty. Is to bring ourselves to the awareness of it. Like, oh, I'm not being impeccable with my word right now. And can we be okay with that? Yes. That's always doing your best, being okay. And asking yourself and digging deeper, how do I change the conversation around this so that I can do my best, so that I'm impeccable with my word, so that I'm kind to myself, so that I'm loving to myself, so that I'm doing the things for myself that I know I deserve. That's the loving yourself. That's everything that comes with it, right? So it doesn't work. So don't expect that you will never take anything personal. Just do your best. You're going to do it. Your routine and your habits are too strong and firmly rooted in your mind, but you can do your best. Okay. Don't expect that you will never make another assumption, but you can certainly do your best. Now, this is not a cop out either, because some people, good morning, Sly. Some people will use it as a cop out, like, oh, I did my best. I did my best, and everything is your best, your best, your best. But you really know in your heart of hearts that you're just using it as a cop out, as an excuse. Not to be used as an excuse, only to recognize that, yeah, okay, today I kind of made an assumption. And we do it all the time. We're human, we're people, our minds are programmed. It's not easy to unprogram our minds. It's not easy to untangle our mind's program. That's not an easy thing to do. The awareness and the practice of awareness and bringing ourselves to awareness is what's important. That's how we get or move past some of these things, like taking things personally or making assumptions or not being impeccable with our word, right? But we do our best to recognize and to understand, and then how to shift that energy into whatever it is, not making assumptions, which would be what? Speaking authentically, communicating authentically, to be able to tell our truth, to be able to have those hard conversations. Being impeccable with your word is being able to say, hey, am I being honest with myself? Am I truly being who I want to be? Or am I lying to myself? What words am I telling myself? And then taking the things personal, right? It's hard because we want to take things personal. Like even earlier, I was taking things personal, right? I have a training session, I have a trainer, and then I go to my trainer, and my trainer's late. And then he's like, well, do you want me to refund you? I'm like, no, I took it personal. I'm like, do you not want to train me? Is that what's going on here? That was me taking it personal, making assumptions. But in the process of that, I did communicate and ask the question, is there something else going on? Like, do you not want to train me? Or if that's the case, then okay, that's fine. But no, I want training. That's what I paid for. It's what I want to do. But getting clearer, not taking it personal, and starting to really understand. And I did. I took it personal, like, oh, this person doesn't want it. And I made an assumption and all this stuff. But then I communicated. I came to the awareness fast and said, let me ask this question to find out. What is the truth around this? Or am I just making stuff up? Well, people will make stuff up and then act as though it's true, and then it's not even true. Good morning, friend. Good morning, Amya. So just do your best. Don't make it a cop out either. But also remember, don't be so hard on yourself when you're doing these things. We're human. It's always going to happen. Can't live without it. So, getting mad at people for doing their best and all this stuff. Don't get, I mean, you can get mad at them, but don't, because you do it too. We all do. Okay. By doing your best, the habits of misusing your word, taking things personally, and making assumptions will become weaker and less frequent with time. You don't need to judge yourself, feel guilty, or punish yourself if you cannot keep these agreements. If you're doing your best, you will feel good about yourself, even if you still make assumptions, still take things personally, and still are not impeccable with your word. If you do your best always, over and over again, you will become a master of transformation. Practice makes the master. I have said this a billion, trillion, gazillion times. Practice, practice, practice. That's it. That is the difference. So people will, what's the difference between a master and a beginner? Well, there's plenty of sayings out there. The master's failed more times than the beginner. Also, the master's practiced a lot more. That's it. Literally, that's it. Start practicing now, whatever that is for you. Like the practice of me getting on here and doing these videos, right? Spirit and Coffee. It's been a practice. I've been doing it for 2 years. It's not like I just, and I just did it. I just got up. There was maybe failures. There was times, and can I get better? Always. Absolutely. There's always room for improvement all the time. But I started off as a beginner, and I was just talking to a friend, and I was only doing it, I think, 2 days a week, or I don't know, and I fell off. And now there's a little bit more consistency. And that's because I practice. It's all just practice. But some would say, "Oh, well, maybe you're the master. You're good at your podcast." Or maybe some would say you can get better. You're not so good. But I'm better than when I started. And that's the key. It's just a practice. It's just something that you practice, you put into your daily life. I'm getting better at workouts, right? Those were a practice. Getting better at making my food and staying on point with my nutrition, practice. But people will say, well, you're like a master. I don't know anyone who could do what you could do. Well, yeah, why? Because I practiced. I failed a lot. It wasn't perfect, and it's still not, and it never will be. There's always room for improvement, always. And that's the beauty of life. To beat your best self, to constantly beat your best self, to be like, I know I can do this much now. Can I go a little bit more? But doing your best all the time. And it's okay if you fall off. It's not the end of the world. Okay? So love yourself. It's okay. Go through the process. Be okay with going through the process. Okay? And practice, practice, practice. Practice makes the master. By doing your best, you become a master. Everything you have ever learned, learn through repetition. You learn to ride, to drive, even to walk by repetition. You're a master of speaking your language because you practice. Action is what makes the difference. If you do your best in the search for personal freedom, in the search for self love, you will discover that it's just a matter of time before you find what you are looking for. It's not about daydreaming or sitting for hours dreaming in meditation. Absolutely agree with this. I've told you guys that over and over. Sitting in meditation, doing vision boards, and all that is good. But just to sit there and stare at it and think it's going to fall from the sky you're highly mistaken. You've got to actually